Hi guys! So that took longer than expected. We had a lot of other things to do and couldn't really make a video, but we have worked a bit on the game since then, and even at the time of the last devlog we already had a lot more to talk about. So I have a lot of things to update you on. In the first episode I talked about what plans we have for this game and how the central minigame works. So check that one out if you haven't already seen it, but I felt like it was very technical and detailed for systems that don't really need that level of in-depth explanation, and making it took a long time. So since we are kind of lagging behind already, I want to make them a little more frequent and less technical in the future and include more updates and in-game footage instead. Okay, now let me show you everything that the game currently includes to get us all up to date. These are the systems we are currently working on. I already showed you this minigame part in the last devlog. We added some polish and we are going to add even more polish. The only thing that really changed from last time is how the artifacts look. I had to change some of them so they work with the new inventory system. But to actually get to the minigame and dig around, you first need to be able to walk around and find places to dig at. Which brings us to our next thing. Making a movable player was easy, but we made a few iterations on the player sprite. Now we have this little guy with a cape, who we are mostly happy with. Maybe make the hair look a little less weird, but that should be it. Now the environment. The caves here are already randomly generated, which took a long time to get the sprites working correctly and seamlessly. The plan is to make the walls destructible, so the walls will also change dynamically, but this is not implemented yet. Currently the walls just generate whenever you die or restart the game, using some Perlin noise generation for very basic adjustable caves, with not much in them yet. We added some rules to how the walls can spawn, but we tried to make them as forgiving as possible, so destroying the walls later doesn't lead to any weird problems from walls being too close together or not large enough. In places where it couldn't generate a full wall, there would be some rocks in different sizes instead. I'm currently working on sprites for decorations to add to the generation, so it looks less bland. We are planning different environmental obstacles like water and more rocks, and some other things like crates and pots that you can loot. Later there's also gonna be all sorts of pre-made rooms generating in the caves that contain different things, but that's something for a later video. What we did add already are torches that spawn on the walls. You can light them up to get more light in the area, and they will get some more uses later on, like scaling fire magic with how many torches you lit or some enemies avoiding light. And a third system that ties the minigame and cave generation together is the inventory, where you can put your dug up artifacts after the wall collapsed in the minigame. Inventories in games can be made in a few different ways, and some of them work perfectly with certain types of games, others not so much. We could think of three main systems that would fit our concept. First, a basic list inventory like Skyrim or Pokemon or most RPG games, where you have an arbitrary limit in weight or item count that you can carry, or no limit at all. Second, a tile-based inventory like Minecraft or Stardew Valley, where you have a limited number of slots you can fill but the items stack. Or the third option, a variation of the tile-based system, an inventory like Dredge, Escape from Tarkov or Backpack Hero. Let's call it the Tetris inventory for now, where you have a very limited number of slots and the shape of the item defines what space it will take up. We decided to use the Tetris inventory as we feel like managing weirdly shaped artifacts in your backpack can be an interesting game mechanic in itself. Although we have to be very careful about giving the player enough space so it doesn't get frustrating. We made two grids, one for the loot and one for the backpack, where you can put all your loot in the backpack manually or just hit the collect all button, which tries to fit everything in by itself if you have the space. We feel like this system makes you appreciate every little artifact that you dug up a little more, since you have to touch and squeeze every one of them into your backpack and make them fit. Special items like hammers, potion and other tools will get their own tiles, so they don't take up precious space. Another thing you can do with this is make combining artifact pieces in your backpack possible. You just have to put them next to each other. This will allow for some interesting mechanics later. Also, you might have noticed some slimes jumping around in the caves to try to attack me. We implemented a very bare bones fighting system to refine in the future. Currently it just exists so you can die and generate a new set of caves. Currently you can only hit them with one of your hammers, but this still needs a lot of polish and it will get its own video in the future. We are aiming for a satisfying but simple fighting system, as fighting will be a pretty important part of the game when we implement different enemies and even bosses. But we also want to keep it simple, because it is not a fighting game. So yeah, that's pretty much all that's in the game for now. Now that the devlog is caught up to the development process, I'm planning to make more frequent videos with smaller updates. I'm currently working on the village outside of the cave, where you can then sell your artifacts or use them to upgrade stuff or solve puzzles to uncover lore. I'm not sure what the next video is going to be about, but I promise it's not going to take as long as this one. Also, if you haven't seen the first devlog, check it out. If you have any suggestions for a video or ideas for the game, or questions, just put them in the comments and we'll be happy to hear them. Alright, thanks for watching and until next time. See ya then.